Hey friend, welcome to Healthy by Heather Brown. Do terms like mental health, intermittent fasting, and buzzy wellness words make you feel overwhelmed? If you don't know where to start with loving the life you already have and letting your good things grow until they become daily habits, I got you, mama. So join me as we unpack what it looks like to live a life well loved and redefine a new approach to health from the inside out. Think of this space as your girlfriend's group text with the occasional dad joke and point of view from my Yankee hubby, Eric. We promise to give you key takeaways that you can implement right away to pursue health in your mind, body, and soul because God made us that way. Don't stress. Let's hop on this Hot Mess Express together. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Healthy by Heather Brown. Some of my girlfriends call me HB squared because of Healthy by Heather Brown, and I'm cracking up because today's guest is also an HB. So without further ado, I want to welcome Hannah Brencher right into the show.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. Hannah, tell everybody a little bit about who you are, what you do. But I have to tell you that you were one of the top requests to be on the podcast this season. So a lot of my people already are big fans of yours.
I love that. I'm so thankful. And I don't get to do a ton of podcast interviews. It's always so fun. Like when I get to fit them into my schedule, you know, like with a crazy toddler and writing schedule. But this one has been one I've been looking forward to. So thanks for having me.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess, how would I describe myself? I am a writer. I'm an author. I just finished writing my fourth book. So that's primarily what I did all throughout 2023 was just like work on that book.
Yes. Which is titled what? Tell everybody what it's titled.
It's called The Unplugged Hours.
Yes. I can't wait to deep dive into this. I'm so excited.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very excited for that book to release. It's been a really life-changing concept for me. But yeah, I am the founder of an organization called More Love Letters. And I'm a wife and a mom and an armchair detective, all of the things. So
I love it so much. Now, how old is you have a daughter, right?
Yes, she is 3 years old.
3. Awesome. And I think that a lot of our people know of you or know about you because you did live in Atlanta in the past, right? And I'm in Birmingham, Alabama.
Yes, I do live in Atlanta now.
You do now? Oh my gosh. Awesome. I saw on your website where it said that you lived in Atlanta for 10 years, but then I thought you were somewhere else. So awesome. So you are in Atlanta now. Do you mind me asking what one of your favorite parts about the city is, or do y'all have family there, friends?
Yeah. So, I mean, we live right here in kind of the heart of Atlanta. We live in Decatur. So we're about like 10 minutes from like downtown. I just love the feel of the city. I love that like cities, you can like get an experience of everything, especially me and my husband are like big foodies. So like there's not any lack of good restaurants in Atlanta. And it's just like a really cool experience. I'm sure eventually we will like probably move to like maybe a more suburban area. But like for now, especially like with our daughter like being 3, it's so cool to get to experience all the city has to offer. I'm from originally Connecticut and lived in New York City and thought I would be a lifer in New York. And turns out that I feel about Atlanta the way that I always hoped I would feel about New York. And so this is very much my city.
I love that so very much. That's super special. So we were just talking about what your new book is called Unplugged Hours. And I mean, Hannah, I'm like, no wonder you needed to unplug. You were in Connecticut and New York, like Atlanta, big cities. So tell us Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the concept of Unplugged Hours.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that like what comes alongside big cities is like lives full of momentum and going. And, you know, especially with New York City, I always felt like I could never power down. It's a city that never sleeps. And so you feel like you always have to be going after that next thing. And there's a part of me that loves that hustle mentality, but in 2021, we were still in the midst of COVID when I just felt really like burnt out in my spirit. I think I felt burnt out spiritually. I think I felt burnt out mentally. I was a new mom and I loved that. But I also felt like I was struggling to be present in daily life. And it wasn't so much like in the past, like I wrote about this in a past book, Come Matter Here. I think it was always about what's coming up 5 years in the future, or like what's 5 years behind. This was something different. It felt almost like my brain did not know how to focus anymore. I was all over the place, and that led to like a burnout, And I remember sitting and journaling. It was on my birthday, and I was thinking about the year ahead, and I'm somebody who is like, a birthday's like a second new year to me. I'm like, I'm going to set some goals and like be a new person, Other people just like eat cake, and I'm so happy for them, but that's just like not me.
Sure.
And I remember like sitting there being like, what is going to be the marker for this year? And I just felt this nudge in my spirit that just said, turn off your phone. And in that moment, it was so clear, but I knew also that it wasn't like, turn off your phone once and like have a great day. It was more like turn off your phone and keep turning off your phone. And so the planner in me needs an end goal. And so when I got home from that trip that we were on, I challenged myself to be like, okay, you know what would it look like to unplug for 1,000 hours in a year? And so I kind of built out a sheet for me so that I could go hour by hour. And at the beginning, that's what it was. It was a fun challenge. It was a way to get more present. I had no idea that it was going to change my life so completely. It was going to become a rhythm that is now a part of my daily life. And it gave me so much back into my life that I don't even think I realized I lost, because it had become normal for me.
Oh my gosh, that's so huge. And I know like around here, we talk a lot about how your mental, your physical, and your spiritual health is so interconnected. And I feel like it's almost like a call back to Sabbath a little bit. Like I was reading some about, you've written some really powerful things that I've seen pop up about Sabbath. Do you mind sharing maybe just a little bit about what it looked like to start that process of 1,000 hours unplugged? How do you do that? What does that look like as a working mom needing to be connected in this crazy world of super technological advances? I'm just curious how that practically played out for you.
Yeah, this is actually something that has been a passion of mine for a very long time. And I am somebody who is in the social media space. I am a content creator. I love social media. Like, I love it. And so I think like as more and more this topic of like unplugging was coming to the forefront, I noticed that it was very much an all or nothing approach. You're either going to like have no technology and no email and digital minimalism, or like just have no boundaries, have no screen time awareness. And I remember thinking like, there's got to be a middle ground to this, because like I have to be on my phone for certain elements of my work. And yet I know, especially with a little toddler, that every time I reach for my phone, I'm telling her a story. I know that I'm doing that. And so for me, like when I looked at the 1,000 hours, and I'm somebody who is like naturally like, I love discipline. I love, okay, if this is the goal, how do we approach that goal? And 1,000 hours ended up being about 3 to 4 unplugged hours a day. To me, that was attainable. So it wasn't so much like, I think when people see 1,000 hours and they see that whole year on one sheet of paper, they're like, this is crazy. It's going to be so hard. And I'm like, no, it's about balance. And that there are some days where you are just completely plugged in. And then you try again the next day and you magically unplug for like 5 hours. And so it's all about balance. But like what you said about Sabbath, like Sabbath was key for me. Sabbath was something that I practiced pre-pandemic. And then something in the pandemic, I think, shifted for a lot of us. I think a lot of us felt like we couldn't power down. We couldn't unplug because our phones were our connection sources, right? Yeah, and so I know for me, like, especially I had a baby 2 weeks after everything shut down in COVID.
Girl,
so like,
wow.
What a time. What a time.
What a time to be alive.
But I felt like there was something inside of me that just felt like if you just keep scrolling, if you just keep reading articles, like like almost like I was going to come up with the solution for this when really it was just fear. We were all afraid because we had never lived through something like this before.
Right.
And so I noticed that Sabbath was one of the first things that went out the window in the pandemic. But in starting the Unplugged Hours, it came back into my life and it became like an anchor point in those Unplugged Hours because I would, turn off the phone Friday after work and I would not turn it back on until sometime in the middle of the day, Saturday, and then stay off social media until Sunday. And that was such a refreshing rhythm for me that like allowed me, it's funny because like, even though this is all about unplugging, this process, I think has allowed me to fall back in love with like why I loved social media in the first place for it being a connecting tool.
Absolutely. Now, when you say that you try to have 3 to 4 hours that are unplugged each day, when do those hours typically fall for you? Is it different day to day? Do you find yourself able to do that only when your daughter's home and not in daycare? I'm just curious the practicalities of it.
Yeah, so there's a lot of like moving parts. Anyone that like goes to unplug, they're always like, well, what about this? What about this?
Yes.
And my biggest thing is like, hey, make for work for you. Like if it's not bringing joy, if it's bringing stress and overwhelm, then maybe this isn't the time to do it,
Sure.
For me though, like I often talk about like zones of time where you know that you want to be unplugged, And so for me, it's like when I wake up in the morning, I don't want to wake up scrolling. I want to come into my office. I want to have my quiet time. I want to plan out my day. Like I want to just be like in my own thoughts. Because what I realized I was doing was I would get up, I would get on my phone and I would be checking in on things. But in actuality, what I was doing was I was checking out. Like that's what I was doing. And I think about like, raising a little girl and how would I tell her like to live like an intentional life? Well, like rule number 1 would not be like wake up and see what everybody else thinks about you and what everybody's doing online. Like I would tell her to like check in with yourself,
Yes.
And so, I have these like zones. Another time for us is like if we are spending intentional time as a family, like I want to be unplugged for those things. I even have like now like a point and shoot camera that I carry with me different places. Cause I think that was the big thing or the big excuse for me was like, well, but I have to document it. Like I need to have these photos,
Totally.
And so now I have these photos, but it doesn't pull me away from the moments. And then in terms of what you were saying about a child that's at school or at daycare or whatever, in times where I want to focus and be unplugged in my work, but I know that like there may be somebody on the other side of the phone, I honestly I just have a small box that I put my phone in and I have the ringer on. So if the school calls, I can very easily pick it up, It's not in like a safe or like a box that I can't break. But to me, that was an excuse. It was an excuse to say, well, she's at school. They may need me. I have to just be plugged in. And my work was unfocused and all over the place. And so it's funny because it's like I've almost like regressed in a lot of ways. Like I don't know. Like I think I'm losing touch with technology a little bit, but like in a really good way. But like now I find that like my best creative ideas are coming out in like slips of like paper. Like they're all over my desk. Just like I've got notepads, or if I want to think through an idea, instead of like trying to think through it on my computer and just execute immediately, like I'll take a step back, I'll sit on my couch, I'll have a notepad, and I'll just allow myself to dream and to plot and envision. And like the ideas seem so much more creative to me. I feel more fulfilled in executing them because for so long it was just idea, execute, idea, execute. And I think the best way that I can describe like the unplugged hours in like all areas is like getting back to like a love for like slow cooking, slow cooking ideas, like slow cooking traditions. Like I was wired to move so fast. And actually in the slowness is where I found so much like deep joy.
Wow. Yeah. I think that you're speaking to my heart because I'm very much so a fast mover. I have an idea, I implement, and have you done the Enneagram test by chance?
Yes.
What are you, if you don't mind asking?
I'm a 4. You're probably a 3.
I am. Yes. Nailed it. So I'm curious then, how did you get comfortable with transitioning to that, and what do you almost feel like it has taught you? Because I think a lot of the women that listen to this podcast are very like, they come here and they are hustlers. Like they're like, I want to hear you give me an implementable tip and I want to go take it and I want to implement it the next day. And sister, I love you. I'm so glad you're that way. Like I get you, but also how do we retrain our brains or our hearts to kind of give the Lord space to work in that as well, you know?
Absolutely. Yes. And that's why I say, like, when I first started unplugging, none of this was really the goal. Like, I did not expect it to change my life so fully. I thought, like, I funneled it through that lens we were just talking about. Like, great time management. This is going to be awesome. We're going to get even more done, you know?
Yes. Time blocking.
Yeah. And it's funny because the more that I got rid of the noise, the more I really felt like I could step in the same rhythm as Jesus. I felt like I could get away with God and I could hear God more clearly, but God was never telling me to hustle, was never telling me to move faster. It actually, in a lot of the instances that I've like sat in and studied in the scriptures, it's a much slower pace that I was resistant to, you know?
Yes.
And so in that process, I think like I realized that the reason that it was me. I was the one resisting it, but I was also the one that had placed all these impossible metrics and standards on myself. No one else was applying that pressure to me. I was applying it to myself. And that was one of the first things I realized when I first started unplugging. I'd be plugged in for most of the day, and then I would hit a stopping point at like 5 or 6 and I would turn my phone off. And I remember every time that I would do it, it felt like this like rush of relief, like, ooh, okay, like pressure is off. And through that, I realized I'm the one inflicting pressure on my days. I'm the one placing all these metrics and parameters about my day when I could be more free flowing, where I could just enjoy myself. And it's still something that like I'm learning how to do, like how to just enjoy the moment or just be in the moment. But I think that like with the ways that we've become so wired to technology, I almost feel like we don't know the difference now between enjoying something for ourselves and enjoying it so we can tell other people that we did it.
Yeah, you're so right.
And it was dangerous territory to me. You know, I think especially like raising kids, I was like, what do I want to show her? What do I want her to know about life? I want her to know that life is something to be lived and to be experienced firsthand. And it's beautiful to share. I love watching certain people on social media platforms go about their days. I love that stuff. At the same time, I've had to ask myself, who am I doing this for? And if it's for other people, then I need to relook at those rhythms, because other people are not the people that are going to be here at 2 a.m. Other people are not the people that have to live my life for me. And so I think just to speak to that person, though, that is like, you know what, tell me all the things, tell me how to do it. Honestly, I do feel like your productivity will be amplified in choosing to unplug, because you are eliminating some of that noise to figure out what actually matters to you, what is in the core of you, like what has God called you to do. Those things become way more clear when we strip out some of the noise, but you don't get the chance to fully realize it because you're always plugging into something. You're listening to a podcast or an audio book or this or that, when in actuality, I think a lot of it is actually within us, but we don't tap in.
Yeah, so true. And or even like we're so busy. I find myself being guilty of this, being like, I'm listening to this podcast, I'm listening to this sermon, but I'm doing it while I'm on a walk sometimes. And I was even feeling convicted of this today. I was like, on this walk, I'm outside, I'm enjoying nature. But if I'm listening to this podcast or listening to this YouTube video, this sermon, yes, it's still, you know, like learning about the Lord, but sometimes I just need to just be with the Lord out in nature. And so I felt really convicted of that today. So thanks for
even
putting that. I'm like, fine. You're seconding what I was already feeling in my heart.
I always come back to the nugget in scripture of like, be still and know that I am God. But what's interesting is like the being still part precedes the knowing, you know, like we want to know God, but the first command in that is be still. and then you will know that I am God. And I think like we have been trained and conditioned to avoid stillness at every juncture. And in actuality, it's like, oh my gosh, like this is where my best life lives. It lives in stillness. It lives in rest. It lives in the ability to go slow. And that doesn't mean that there aren't seasons of hustle and times of momentum, but like you can still move with momentum and like be still in your spirit and be at peace.
Yes, 100%. My mother-in-law's favorite Bible verse, but she passed away this past August, and her favorite verse was "Be still and know that I'm God." And we talked about at her funeral, like Sue already knew God. The only part she struggled with was the "be still," and that's also my struggle. So that just made me smile that you brought that verse up on the podcast today, number one. So thank you for that. And number two, I would like for you to explain a little bit more about, because this has come up several times in podcast interviews so far this season. People have talked about anchor points in their day. They've talked about building healthy rhythms and routines. But I don't think that anybody has said just verbally for people that are like, what do you mean by anchor point? Do you mind kind of explaining how your day plays out? What are anchor points and maybe how that helps you rest or unplug more?
Yeah. I mean, I think anchor points too, though, like, I think they shift in different seasons and I think they shift with life. Like I can plan my day out to the best of my ability and it may not, I mean, let's be real, like 8 times out of 10 may not go that way, you know, like, for me though, I would say the biggest anchor point is that morning meeting with God. Like that's it. That's huge. And I have found myself in past seasons, you know, like being like, oh, well, you know what? Like the baby is sleeping. And so I need to get up and immediately get into work. And like God and I can meet later in the day and that'll be great. And that'll be beautiful. And that is like, there are different seasons, but, I felt this year walking into this year, you know, I had all of like my goals per usual. And I just felt God saying like, make me the centerpiece, even more so make me the centerpiece. And I was led to this passage in Psalm 5. And, you know, this is the Hannah translation of it, but it basically says like, every morning you will hear me at it again. I'll lay the pieces of my life on your altar and wait expectantly.
Hey mama, do you feel like you are surviving on chicken nuggets and goldfish and haven't stepped in a gym since college? Or maybe, on the other hand, you feel like you're checking every health box and are still hitting a brick wall? Well, I'm here to help you redefine what it means to be healthy from the inside out. I'm a former fitness instructor and everyday mom who is passionate about helping you create a beautiful life you freaking love. So I'm opening the doors to the Healthy by Heather Brown membership to the public and can't wait to walk alongside you and be your cheerleader. When you join, you'll be added to my exclusive Facebook group. You'll receive my Sunday reset training that will help you create promising, sustainable, healthy choices from the inside out, which will in turn lead to a more joy-filled life for busy moms. Live coaching and workout classes with yours truly. You asked and I listened. We'll talk about how to balance your whole health when you have kids and life get busy with school and activities. It includes grocery haul ideas and accountability as we all reset together each Sunday. There will be so much offered that you won't find anywhere else on the internet. Are you ready to take one step out of stress, shame, unhealthy boundaries, and fatigue and add healthy rhythms to the Hot Mess Express? When you're ready, I'll see you on the other side of the link in the show notes. I'm excited and ready to hold your hand and meet face to face.
And that to me was like, that's the heartbeat right there, you know, and that's the anchor point. It's like, okay, in the morning, first thing before anything else, I'm going to meet with you. And that's the thing. It doesn't have to be an hour of time, a half hour of time, even if it's just 5 minutes to just check in with yourself, check in with God, say a simple prayer. But like meeting first thing, because that is the most important thing.
Yes.
And then having this rhythm of laying out the pieces of your life before God. And then what I love that the psalmist says is not just wait, but like wait expectantly that God is going to be good. And so I would say that that has kind of been the anchor point that's really been driving me more so, especially in this year. It's like, okay, that's first. And then my day flows more easily because of that.
Sure.
But yeah, different anchor points would be, like moving my body. That is a high priority that has to fit into my day. And I always find that when it happens, like, cause it happens primarily every day, but once it happens, I feel that much more accomplished. I feel less overwhelmed. I feel like you can kind of sense what the anchor points are, because when you finish them, you feel immediately like relieved, better, almost like a weight has been taken off of you. And so I might challenge somebody that's listening to be like, look at your day. What are the things that made you feel more full? What are the things that made you feel like, whoa, yeah, this is important. This matters. And a lot of times it's the things that you feel the most resistance to actually doing,
Yes, so true. I love that. And I love the way that you're describing it as well. Hannah, I feel like we're quickly running out of time, so I did want to ask you some too. When you say that you practice Sabbath, I really feel like that is something that our culture specifically really struggles with this day and age. So you said you do Sabbath from Friday at sundown to Saturday evening. You said it's how I take a breather, recharge, and get ready for the week ahead. So we typically, I talk on here about all the time, we do a Sunday reset, but it's like I'm planning for the week, it's orchestrating, it's setting intentional habits, blah, blah, blah. So I guess, what does Sabbath look like to you? How do you practice it? What do you do as a family? What do you not do as a family during Sabbath? Because I feel like with a toddler, that's probably pretty hard.
Yeah, but it's something that we've been doing with her since I think she was like 18 months old. So I think awesome. It's become a part of her rhythm, whether she realizes it or not. And so I think like for us, the Sabbath is just, we're moving slower. We're often with people. We're with one another. A tradition that started in the Unplugged Hours that has carried into our Sabbath is we started doing something called Pizza Friday, where we'd watch a movie together as a family. We'd either make a pizza or we'd order a pizza. And, it morphs and changes where sometimes it's like, we don't feel like pizza, so we're just going to do takeout or whatever. But sure. That Friday evening is typically reserved for something we're going to do together as a family. It's like a collective exhale. We often will, go out to brunch on Saturdays or get outside or ride bikes or read and nap and things that recharge us. Yes. And so for me in the Sabbath, I don't do the planning. I don't do the meal prepping. That to me is not, it's great and it will set me up on Sunday. And that's kind of when I moved my Sabbath back from Friday into Saturday, because I found that Sunday didn't feel like a day of rest to me.
Yeah.
And so it's really sweet to go and to worship on Sunday mornings. But even for me, just getting up and putting on the pants and going somewhere, that's not rest,
Right.
And so I just was okay, let's shift it to traditional Sabbath was usually from Friday at sundown to Saturday at sundown. And, it ebbs and it flows. But I think the biggest thing for me is that when I first started doing Sabbath, I was doing strictly a digital Sabbath. I was off of social media, off of email. But if I wanted to still write, I would write. If I wanted to do something, I would, And what I've had to get into the rhythm of over the last however many months is no, Sabbath means I'm not working.
And
that is the hardest thing for me, because you could always use Saturday to get ahead, but it's my exchange with God to be you're holding this together. I want to work. I want to move. I want to do these things, God, but I'm stepping back and I'm allowing you to be God. And so I think honestly, it's even less about what I'm filling my time with and more about that surrender from me, because I would love to just go and work and
yes,
it's handing over the keys for 24 hours. And that really sets the tone for the week.
Yeah. I'm I need to do that because it's not even I sit down and write emails or like that, but I'll just be strategizing about ooh, what Amazon links will people want to shop and what are my DMs and, oh, they needed me to go grab this, but it's
totally.
Wait 24 hours. They can wait.
Yeah. And it's exactly. And I've gotten now into the habit of telling like my people on social media, like heading off for Sabbath, and it's not more like it's not like an announcement of like leaving Instagram. See you guys later. It's more like, hey, like if I share this, I'm being intentional about this. And I would hope that somebody in my community, if I'm popping up on like Saturday morning, be like, you're in Sabbath,
Right.
And so it's more like showing my community, hey, these are the rhythms that help me thrive. Like this is what helps us reset as a family, And the last thing that I'll say on the Sabbath is like, be kind and gracious to yourself, because like I think we can I honestly think we could just like slather legalism over a lot of things. Like if I don't do this perfectly right, then it's not Sabbath. And I think like we see lots of instances in the scriptures where Jesus is saying like the Sabbath was made for man, like it's made for you. It's a gift for you. And so like give yourself grace if something happens or if something falls on a Saturday that is work. Like I like we keep that time protected, but like I'm also able to pivot to be like, okay, well, you know what? There's going to be this event that I have to do on Saturday. I can have a Sabbath on Tuesday,
Yes,
but it's like looking at the space of your week and realizing like, I need a time to rest and hand over the keys.
Yes. Amen. Amen. Well, do you mind? I usually ask a closing question of what you do to reset, but I kind of feel like you just answered that, which is amazing. So will you do us a favor and close us out in prayer? And I would love specifically, I just think about going into this year. It's an election year. And I know that a lot of anxiety and worry is up and women in our community. And I think that implementing something like the Sabbath or being on your phone less could only lessen that anxiety. So if you even mind specifically praying for that over the audience, I would so appreciate it.
Absolutely. Dear God, we just thank you for this chance to come together and make much of you, God. We thank you for this conversation. We thank you for the women within this community, God, that the ones that are listening or tuning in on a busy day, or maybe, just stumbled upon this episode and are hearing us talk, God. I just pray for that woman specifically, God, that you would be ministering to her, that you would be getting across these ideas that maybe she's needed to hear for a while, God, the idea of rest and resting in you, God, and this belief that, she doesn't hold the world together, that she can let that pressure roll off of her shoulders, God, and that you will step in and fill in the gaps, God. And so I just pray right now for rest and restoration within this community, for the idea of a weekly Sabbath to percolate and to start to take shape, God. I just pray that we could be tone setters for this year ahead, that worry and anxiety and all these things that might easily, get in the way, God, that we would run offense rather than defense, God, that we would be proactive rather than reactive, God, that we would walk into this year and in these months to come, God, with peace and with a goodness and with the belief in your promises, God. And so I pray this for every woman that is listening today, in your son's holy name, Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Well, thank you so much, Hannah. Will you do me a favor and tell everybody where they can find you online and get your books?
Yeah. So hannahbrencher.com. That is where I am writing. I'm blogging. I have an email club called the Monday Club. So if you're looking for encouragement every Monday around 5 a.m., an email will be popping in your way. And then Hannah Brencher on all social media. And my books are on my website or wherever books are sold.
Woohoo! Yes. So y'all go check it out. Hannah, we're so honored that you came on to be with us today. Such a joy. Thank you again so very much. And y'all, as you listen to this, I just hope that your heart felt the pull of the Holy Spirit just to find out what rest and Sabbath can look like for you in your life. Not only will it impact you, but also generations to come. You're going to be showing your kids what it looks like to actually be disconnected from this device. It feels like it's always, finding a way to eke into our homes and our lives and just every corner of it. Take some of those crevices back and just let the Lord work in that stillness as well, because he will, he's faithful, and use that time for extra prayer as well. And I hope you guys have a beautiful Tuesday. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Hello, everybody.
It's good to be back.
Yes, and we cannot believe that we are hurtling towards spring break season and lots of you going on travels or trips this summer. And I just was like, wow, we're going to Tampa before we know it. So excited. Warm weather. Yes, please.
Yes, can't wait to get back to Tampa. It's been raining for about 4 days straight here in Birmingham, and before that had record low cold temperatures. So definitely looking forward to getting down to Florida.
Yes, this is really random and super off topic, but Eric and I are sitting right by a window, and I normally do not see you from the side like this. You now have what was one gray hair in your sideburn. You have about 4 now.
Yes, I've noticed that as well too. Thank you for pointing that out.
Silver fox.
I'm gonna still take that as a compliment, being almost 39 and only having 4 gray hairs on the side of my head. But I will say there's been a little stress in our lives over the last several months, so comes with the territory.
So true, and you look great. I'm super jealous that you only have 4 gray hairs. I have about 400.
I'll take it, like I said. So today on the Marriage Corner, if you've listened before, you probably know that I am a huge fan of lists. And keeping with that same thought process, the list that I wanted to go through today, and Heather and I both came up with this list, but as spring break is coming up, and I know expenses are a big part of everybody's life, I wanted to talk about the top 5 ways that you and I save money in our life and our lifestyle. And so like I said, we went through this, and I think we listed out our top 5 ways, and maybe you have some extra ones, but I thought that would be a good thing to discuss today.
Yeah, for sure. I love talking about saving money, and we're recording this towards the end of January. And I know a lot of people are doing a no-spend January right now. But just a reminder that even if you're listening to this later on, and maybe you're even on your spring break listening to this, you can institute a no-spend week or day or whatever you want to do with your husband. I thought this was a great idea. Somebody said to do 1 day a week where you spend no money, and it's just known throughout your family.
Yeah, I think it's whatever works for you and your family. And if you decide to do something like that, I think that's a good start. I think it's important to be flexible as well, too. But just figuring out what works best for you and your family. But I think for ours are more kind of general concepts. So do you have just one of 5? These are in no particular order, but what would you say is one of the biggest ways that we save money?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in meal planning and saving money at the grocery store. Eric and I cannot tell you how much money that we have saved over the years just by meal planning, grocery shopping, eating at home. And then you guys know that date nights are very important to us, but when we do go on a date night, it's typically somewhere that we have a coupon. So I would say you have a lot of fixed expenses like your power bill, your car payments, your home payment, but where you do have flexibility is how much money you spend on food. And I think that you and I do a really great job of saving money there.
I would completely agree. And I think you combined two of the ways that we save money into one. One basically saying to basically plan out your meals. Also use coupons. That's a huge thing that we do. We recently bought this Save Around Birmingham book, and it has all different kinds of coupons from Dick's Sporting Goods to ice cream places. It's always a buy one, get one free, which is great with having kids.
Chicken Salad Chicks or in West.
Yeah, all different kinds of coupons that, it's usually a buy one, get one free. And if that's one way to save money, we like to do that. And the other thing that you said, I think one of the ways that we save a lot of money is that we really do try to limit how much we go out to eat. Mm-hmm. For us, it's specifically for date nights, we like to spend money for us two. Now, we will take the kids out to eat, and, they'll get Chick-fil-A every once in a while. McDonald's, I know it's not the most healthy, but as a special thing for them, maybe once a month, I think that's completely appropriate, but I think it is easy. And I think you and I both understand that today schedules are so crazy, getting kids to and from school, extracurricular activities. Sometimes, fast food or just grabbing something on the go is all that you can do. But there are ways we think to limit those expenses and try and limit going out to eat as much as you can. Not to mention just the benefits of if you're able to sit around a table together and have dinner together, have conversations. one of the things we've been doing as a family is we have these little conversation cards, and the kids love picking out a conversation card, and we discuss all different topics, and that's been great for our family. So we encourage you to get around the table, and if you can limit how much you go out to eat, I think you'd be surprised at how much money you can save.
100%. And even a hack that I often use to save money when we're going out is to order off the kids menu, because number one, you're eating a little bit less food, so it's helping you with portion control, and it's typically cheaper as well.
For sure. Another one that I would say, I guess this is number 3 on our list, and I kind of did this during our move from our old home to our new home, was just went through all of our expenses, mainly our subscriptions to iTunes, to streaming services, looked at our mobile phone bill, just everything. I looked at all the subscriptions we had and tried to decide which ones do we really need, which ones do we not need. And I think people would be surprised at just once you cancel subscriptions that maybe, aren't on your top of priority, you really don't miss them. And I think I heard on average, the average millennial has 17 subscriptions, which is
wow,
17 monthly expenses that you don't think about it, but they add up a lot. Now, each person's different. We understand that. Maybe some people have more subscriptions. Maybe some people have less. But I encourage people just to review over all their subscriptions, see which ones you truly need in your life to function. Obviously most people need internet. Most people, basic things like that, cell phone bills, things of that nature. But if you can find a better deal with another carrier, or you bundle things together, that's another thing to look at, and you can save money. But I think trying to reduce and prioritize subscriptions is a huge way that we save money.
I definitely agree with that. However, if you subscribe to Healthy by Heather Brown membership, don't cancel that one, Eric.
Like I said, priorities.
Yes, obviously that's a priority in you guys' life, right?
For sure.
Thank you for supporting the podcast.
It's all about value.
That's right.
So do you have a 4th way that you feel that's one of the top priorities, the largest ways that we save money?
So I will say that Eric is really good about, and I don't even think this is on our initial list, and we've done a whole episode on this that I'll try to find and link back to, but we save money on our trips because Eric and I really value travel by utilizing a lot of points. I would say that typically we are not traveling without either having found some kind of deal on the travel, using points to travel, a free flight because of credit cards that we have, or we're staying with family or friends. I don't know that you and I book something where we ever pay full price for every part of it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's very rare. For us personally, I think it's one or the other with trying to find some kind of discount, whether it's actually on the transportation, the flight, the rental car, whatever that may entail, or the hotel, using points for that. I just find that when we're on vacation, if I feel like, oh man, we didn't have to pay for this flight, or we didn't have to pay for this hotel, it just, for me personally, it makes the vacation that much more enjoyable. Now, granted, I do understand you have to spend money on a lot of these credit cards to earn those points, but if you're able to save them up, over 2 or 3 years, and you pay your credit off on a monthly basis, you're going to have enough points for a free flight, a free hotel room at a nice hotel. And a lot of times they'll give you a free complimentary room with, we have a Hilton American Express card, and I feel like the benefits are great with that card. But, yeah, I agree with you. That's one of the biggest ways that we save money, and I encourage people to look into those different programs to save money.
Yes. So that probably wasn't on our list. So what's next that was actually on our list?
That was a nice honorable mention, and it is a big way that we save money. I think we kind of touched on this a little bit, but I think one of the ways that we save money is we try to limit impulse purchases for the most part. I'm sure everyone's been at that store, and they see something that they really want. I think it's important just to take a step back and say, do I really need this item? And I think probably about 98% of the time, you would probably, if you were truly honest, you would say, you know what, I really don't need this item. And I think we realized just when we moved from our last house to this house, just all of the things that we had accumulated. And granted, our home was a modest size, I would say, but just all of the things that you were just going through our medicine cabinet last night and just finding all of these old medications, supplements that you're like, oh my gosh, this supplement has been expired since 2014. Why do we still have this? And little things like that. And so I would just try and tell people, just take a step back. Do I really need this purchase? And if you do, shop around, try and find the best deal. If you wait a little while to see if something goes on sale, saving $50 here, $10 there, it's going to add up as well too.
Yes, definitely. And I also meant to mention this earlier with the groceries, but you saying that reminded me. Also, not being married to a brand name, I feel like saves us a lot of money. So a lot of times if I see, anything that I want, whether it be like a LED red light mask, I might hear this brand that's supposed to be amazing, but then I'm going to go on Amazon, read the reviews, and find a cheaper option.
Do we really need the red light mask, Heather?
It was a Christmas gift. I used Christmas money.
I'm just kidding.
But also, even thinking down to my mom buys Tide laundry detergent every single time. And I'm going to buy whatever laundry detergent is on BOGO at Publix that week, which means buy one, get one free, or whatever I find on sale or the store brand.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think it's important to be brand loyal to some things. That's great. If you have something that's tried and true, then stick with it. But just think about your purchases. Is it necessary? And I think that'll go a long way. For the last way, the fifth way that I feel like we really save money is that we really discuss our finances together. And, I would encourage anybody that's listening to this to discuss your financial situation to your significant other, to your spouse, to a trusted family member or an advisor. I think that will go a long way. A lot of times they can offer insight that maybe is blind to you, and they can give you advice on how to save money, how to increase revenue, and give you a different perspective. Also, it's just so important, especially with your spouse or significant other, it's important to be on the same page so that you just know what are priorities in your financial life. What do you want to spend money on? What do you want to save for? And if you are on the same page, then obviously, that's going to help with your relationship. It's going to help, and it's going to help you meet your financial goals as well, too.
Yes. And this is so silly. And Eric, I don't even know if you notice this or not or think about it, but y'all, I love telling Eric about when I save money because I'm like, man, he's going to be proud of me. And it just feels so good to be able to tell your spouse about that. So for instance, we are about to go to the Well House, which is a charity here in Birmingham that we support. And you guys help me support because we donate a portion of proceeds from Healthy by Heather Brown to the Well House here in Birmingham, which helps with human trafficking and survivors of that, et cetera, et cetera. We're about to go to this gala, and I would never buy a new dress to go to something like this. Usually I'm going to try to borrow one first. So I probably send out a text to my sister and at least 5 other friends, asked a few people at the gym, does anybody have some dresses I can try on to borrow? And so I was so proud to tell Eric, I probably saved us $250 by not buying this new fancy ball gown. And don't get me wrong, Eric would probably tell me, hey, if you really want one, go get it if we budgeted for it. But at the same time, it's just nice to be able to have that communication and to have your spouse be proud of you as well for saving that money.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you feel excited to tell me that you save money. That's important to me, and I really appreciate that. And then, we're always talking about our purchases and just making sure we're on the same page. And yeah, it's super important, and I definitely appreciate that.
One more tip, and then I know we're running out of time quickly, but when we had premarital counseling, one of the things that our pastor asked us to do was to come up with a monetary amount that we felt was a good threshold to discuss with our spouse before we purchased. I think at the time, didn't we say it was like $50 or $75? This was back in 2008, so it's been a while.
I think it was a little bit more than that. I think
maybe $100?
Between $100 and $200, yeah.
Okay.
Just with discussing with one another.
Yeah, I feel like it was $100 because we were broke back then. We were 22 years old.
That's true. I think it was $100.
Okay. But then even revisiting that of what is our new monetary amount, that might be something you want to talk about on your next date night in or date night out.
Great advice. Love the conversation, and hopefully that helps people out. I would love to hear how I mentioned that we love to do lists. If any of the listeners have any recommendations for lists that they would love to hear or have us discuss, please put those in the comments section, and we'll review those, and we're always open to good ideas.
That's right. All right. Well, y'all have a beautiful day. Thanks so much for being here. Can't wait to read those reviews of what list you want to see next. Bye.